Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the second webinar of Textkernel in the series on semantic technology. This webinar will focus on the topic of active sourcing and the role of semantic technology. We have seen a growing interest in active sourcing in the industry and amongst our partners and customers. Today, Jakub, CEO of Textkernel, will dive into this topic and talk to you about how semantic technology can stimulate active sourcing of candidates. My name is Kim Pichel. I'm responsible for marketing and communications at Textkernel. And while Jakub is doing the webinar, I will be monitoring the question box. But enough said, it's time to give the floor to Jakub. Jakub?
Thank you, Kim. So welcome in our second webinar in this series. It's a real pleasure to have such a big turnout of people from all over the recruitment and HR technology industry. Welcome. Glad you could make the time. So today's topic is active sourcing and the role of semantic search in that. We are from Textkernel, and basically these are products that we make. We'll not be talking in general only about specific products. We'll be talking about the overall topic of how people that come with unstructured data into the job market and employers or recruiters that are posting jobs online can use semantic technology, which will also go into what it exactly means, to find each other in a more effective way and to make the job market more lively. So these are the topics for the next 45 minutes or so. First thing that we want to talk about is methodology. So the classical method of advertising and then waiting for candidates to apply for a job, which we anecdotally also call post and pray. We will contrast it with what is more and more becoming a trend, especially for hard-to-fill positions. But in general, because of the openness that social networks and online profiles provide, it's becoming actually an alternative or a complementary method to posting jobs, is the concept of active sourcing. So basically actively reaching out to candidates. The main topic of this webinar is, of course, not the economics of active sourcing or posting jobs, but it's the role of technology. It's the role of the technology that Textkernel is working on, semantic technology, which allows us to understand the profiles of job seekers and of employers looking for people. We did a webinar on the concepts of semantic search a couple of months ago, and one of the reactions we received that there was so little of our product in it, and we're actually very proud to have a new release of our search product, which is thematically very much linked to the concept of active sourcing. And it's not entirely released, but we'd like to give you a small preview of the most important features, as we're very close to releasing it to the general public. So let's take a step back and look at the job market and how job seekers and employers are acting in that job market. Well, basically, both parties find it pretty hard to find each other. This is a photograph of a job fair, which is one medium how they can hook up with each other. But there are many others. The basic concept of employers looking for people to do their jobs is still very much dating back to the age of print media. which is basically to publish to a broad and general audience the demands and the position that you're looking to fill, and then hope that the right people will apply. We call this concept post and pray. And while it certainly has its advantages, for example, you get people who are actually interested lined up at your doorstep. It also has a couple of disadvantages. The main one being a large effort to put your ad out there to a general audience through mass media. And once you've done that, you have to wait, you have to pray. And you wait a little while. Usually the first reactions that you get immediately after you posted the jobs are not that great. So you're waiting basically for conversion, for qualified and relevant people who are interested in your job to prepare their paperwork, to send you their CV and their motivation letters. And basically then you have applicants. Applicants come with their CVs in hand, usually into the application process. And if you're lucky, there's lots of them. Or you could ask yourself if that's exactly what you want, because if you have one position, you're looking to hire exactly one person, and you want to select the best person out of this large set of applicants. And that usually means a lot of work. You have to go through lots of CVs, lots of profiles, score them, filter them according to your job criteria, and then invite them for an interview. So that's what we call post and pray, or post and diligently work. And if it doesn't work, if applicants don't turn up in large numbers, because the job you have is difficult to fill one and requires lots of very specialized knowledge, the methodology basically says, repeat the procedure, advertise again, and pray on, or escalate, which usually means hire a recruiter, hire an agency to help you, and they will probably do something similar, or move a little bit towards active sourcing, because that's might be more effective. So basically, the point we want to make is that this post and pray model is somewhat defective. It's broken for a number of reasons. Advertising to the general public, while at the same time knowing that certainly in Europe, the jobs that we are looking to fill are very knowledge and skills intensive, is somewhat of a waste of effort. Basically, the type of information needed, the type of profiles that recruiters are looking for knowledge and skills intensive jobs, are pretty complex queries. So here's a few examples. Find me a part-time legal secretary in Utrecht who speaks 3 languages, and there has to be cultural fit with working in a small law office. Or I'm looking for a software developer with knowledge of Java and databases, and it has to be a front-end developer with quite a lot of experience and German speaking. You will not find this profile in the general population of unemployed, or in the general population of accidental visitors to a job board. A small percentage of them might fit that profile, of course. And if you're going into even more specialized professions, like a pipeline engineer for the offshore industry, you come to a level where probably even the recruiter tasked with hiring for this position might have a difficult time understanding exactly which concepts and techniques and search terms are involved. A running example that I will use throughout the presentation is our own quest to find a sales manager for our own HR technology in the DACH area in Germany, with good experience in selling high-tech software solutions. So broadcasting to the general public is not only a bit ineffective, it's also quite expensive. Here you see an overview of cost of hire broken down into the application process. And you see that, for example, in large firms, the average cost of hire tends to be around 10,000 euros, including posting jobs, interviewing applicants, and hiring recruiters, external recruiters. So that's a lot of money. Another disadvantage of the post and pray methodology is that actually you're targeting the general population, but you're targeting only a very small percentage of it. These are numbers from the US from 2011, and of the overall working population, only 14% were active job seekers. Some 20% were casual job seekers that would sometimes look at job listings, and the remainder, the majority of the population, is either not looking or very passively. And the last but not least important disadvantage of post and pray is that the time lag between posting and getting the first applicants is pretty long. It can be weeks. And in a very competitive situation where hiring the right person for the job is often very crucial to the success of the employer, this is many times not acceptable. So a lot of arguments for why post and pray is not so good. So what's the alternative? Well, for one, as a recruitment agency or a staffing agency or employer, we have lots of candidates. It's not that we have to advertise in order to find candidates. We have lots of them in databases in our applicant tracking system. And while that's only the people who already indicated that they are interested in working with us, which is pretty important overall, there's lots more out there. With the rise of social networks, LinkedIn has 200 million users, Facebook around a billion. Not all of these are, of course, people looking for work, but there's a lot of information to be found there, and you can actually research these people and get in touch with them. So overall, especially because everybody's online now with their profile, or the majority of the working population will be, is that the market is pretty transparent. So why advertise to the general population? Why not go into active sourcing, which is basically targeting exactly those people who are relevant for your job, and then directly contacting them? Seems like a good idea. So why is not everyone doing this? Well, it's a matter of two factors in our view. One is simply habit. So recruiters, especially corporate recruiters, have become so used to this post and pray model that seems like the easiest way to fill the position. You spend some time advertising, and then you wait. During that time, you can do other types of work. But I think that's not a very convincing argument. A more serious argument is, of course, the skill set that's required to do active sourcing. And I think that consists of three parts. And the part where you start is the searching part, which is also the topic of this webinar. And searching online is possible, of course. You have Google, you have Bing, you have LinkedIn, Facebook, lots of methods to search. And some people are pretty good at it. These are some of the leading experts internationally and in the Netherlands in active sourcing and searching for active sourcing, and on sites like Boolean Black Belt and lots of other resources, they are exchanging tips and techniques that allow them to X-ray the internet for the right candidate, to find the person with the right skills, regardless of where they left a trace or fingerprint of that on the internet. That's great, and it's some fantastic work that these people are doing, a lot of which inspired our technology. But the problem is that the average user, this doesn't scale very well. The average recruiter is not very technical, so they will pick up these fancy Boolean search techniques with, for example, tips for queries on Google, but they have a hard time because they don't have a technical background and are not um, search geeks to get the right queries. And when we see people recruiters asking for help like this, we think that's kind of odd. It's kind of crazy because should they really care about what the right query syntax is for their job in Google or in LinkedIn? We don't think so. We think that recruiters should not focus on this technical aspect of their job, but they should rather focus on the human aspect of their job, which they're pretty good at usually. So they should focus on matching, and I don't mean matching in the technical sense of matching technology or matching software, but of actually evaluating and assessing the click, the cultural fit, the requirements fit between what the hiring manager is looking for and what the candidate represented by a CV on or a social network profile um, document is actually like as a person to work with. And the third part of the active sourcing skill set is probably the most important part and the real value add for good recruiters. Good recruiters will not spam people with jobs they might or might not be interested. They will, once they have sourced a list of names, they will get on the phone. They will contact people on Twitter. They will directly engage with interesting candidates, active or passive candidates, and try to persuade them to consider the job and eventually take it. And this is the way a good recruiter ends up filling a position with the best candidates. So we think that a major bottleneck for recruiters to turn to active sourcing is actually the searching part. And we think that semantic technology is basically an important part of the solution. So if a recruiter were able to put these type of queries in natural language or very naturally into a searching solution and find candidates in their own database or online, that would be great. And they wouldn't have to learn all these complex query languages, which not only are very technical, but they require a lot of domain expertise, and they are different for each database. So on Google and Bing, you search differently. On Twitter, you search differently. In the Monster database, you search differently. And in your own ATS, you search differently. So we think that should be unified and very natural. The problem, of course, is that the profiles are unstructured data. So we want to do structured queries like about education or previous experience, skills, location, salary requirements, etc. But the documents that we have are keyword-based documents. They're unstructured. And we have to deal with the complete variation of natural language, like spelling mistakes, spelling variations, um, uh, declensions of verbs and nouns, abbreviations, and the fact that people can express the same concept in lots of different words. So we have to deal with synonyms and sentence structure. And also, not only are there lots of different ways to say the same thing, but uh, there's also ambiguity. So the same word might mean two completely different things depending on the context. An example being, for example, Java, which is a programming language, but also location in Indonesia. And depending on the place in the document, you will need to have a different interpretation. So overall, the semantic search problem is about being able to search very naturally for concepts and relationships rather than keywords in a complex query language. And of course, being in Europe, this has to be multilingual because in each country that people are looking for jobs, they naturally like to do this in their own language. So the language variation problem is multiplied by the number of countries and languages. So basically, the direction in which we are going with our technology is to answer this question: what kind of active sourcing could you do if you could directly search with your most natural expression of your requirements, namely your job ad, and before even posting it online? I'm not saying you shouldn't post it online, but before sending it out into the world as a publication, search, have the job ad itself, the concepts in it, find the relevant candidates in your own existing applicant database, but also in all types of social networks and online CV sources. And we think it's important to be able to do that as an average recruiter without being a search geek and memorizing Boolean query syntax. So that's what we understand with semantic search. Very natural expression in language of what you mean to look for. And the basic definition of semantic search is hence a search engine that allows you to find people based on what you mean and not based on what you type. So it's all about understanding what do you mean? What does a job advertisement mean? What are the words referring to? What concepts and what relationships? And it's really kind of splits up in two parts naturally. To understand, to be able to do semantic search, on the one hand, we have to understand what your query means. So we have to be able to analyze the structure of your query and translate it into an intelligent search process in the technology. And on the other side, we also have to understand what the profiles, what the search results mean in order to be able to match the query and return the right ones. So you might say, doesn't this exist already? We can search pretty well. I mean, LinkedIn is the largest professional network, and you can do structured search, and it's pretty semantic to me. So let's look into that a little bit more. This is our own job of a HR and talent technology salesperson in Germany, located near Frankfurt. And well, we can express all that in an advanced people search form. Too bad we have to know the postal code, but that's okay. That's surmountable. We look up the postal code, and then we look for a sales executive, for example. Well, with 200 million profiles on LinkedIn, the result is pretty disappointing because we only find one result, and well, it's kind of accidental. So maybe we typed the wrong job title. So let's try another one. Let's try sales manager. Well, in fact, we find 0 results. Well, this is not meant to kind of criticize LinkedIn's product because obviously, as a social network and a repository of professional profiles, it's absolutely fantastic. But this is not what we mean by semantic search. You couldn't really argue that the search engine I just showed was doing an effort to find what I meant rather than what I typed. No, it returned actually the results that were exactly matching the strings that I typed. So there's a lot more to semantic search. It is about understanding the query. It's about understanding the documents, and both parts of that are naturally related to the knowledge and the natural language processing technology and the parsing capabilities that we have been developing for the last 12 years at Textkernel. In our previous seminar in early this year, we went in detail into what we understand as the 8 elements of semantic search, which move from understanding the string that you type in terms of correcting typos, auto-suggestion, etc., all the way to delivering meaningful results. Well, today we will not go in detail into those technical concepts of semantic search. But I think you will understand there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. So basically, we took these elements of semantic search and tried for the last 3 years to translate the research in that area into a really easy to use and intuitive search interface that allows you to very visually and intuitively interact with candidate databases, formulating very complex queries without requiring you to learn a complex query language. So what you see here is our search product, which is a module that's embedded in um, in some applicant tracking systems, in job boards, in all kinds of recruitment-related products. And what you see here is it's a combination of basically two well-known approaches to search: a full text querying approach, similar to Google, where you have a search box and you type keywords, and a filtering and browsing approach, which is quite common on lots of shopping and e-commerce sites. So you have facets and filters from different fields, so you can do structured queries. So you can actually find somebody who is currently a sales manager and not has the word sales manager somewhere in their profile. And you can find somebody actually living in Frankfurt or a radius around that, or somebody actually having particular skills or languages that they speak. So that's kind of the filtering and browsing approach, and we supplement that by the use of tag clouds, which allow you really easily to visualize what's in your current result set. So we have results for our current query. We have results in our own database. We have also results externally on social networks. And the tag cloud visualizes kind of the population that's in our current result set and allows us to refine and browse through them. What you see in the next screenshot is that it's not only about structure and about access to different databases, it's also a lot about knowledge that comes in the box. So if you're looking for a sales manager, it's not that you're actually want to exclude people who wrote sales executive or sales director or VP sales on their profile. And in different languages, in France or Germany, you will have different terminology for this. So this kind of knowledge about what's relevant in recruitment and what is the language used by people actually in their CVs and their jobs is really part of the package for search. So here you see that we have for sales manager some 60 synonyms that you also want to search for to not exclude the right candidate. And when you have constructed your query and drilled down on the right set of candidates, This is what we mean by understanding the results. So as a recruiter, you want to be able to compare very visually and intuitively why certain candidates are on top of your list, what criteria they match, and what criteria they have a gap with your requirements. So that's our basic approach to search. So we enable the average recruiter to do structured, powerful queries on unstructured data without requiring somebody to type in all the data into forms. So that's the role of CV parsing, so automatically analyzing the documents, and without requiring the recruiter to learn complex query languages. We think the visual interface, the user interface, is very important. It has to be easy and it has to be intuitively understandable for everyone. We also think that you don't want to go to different destinations to search your own database and to search on LinkedIn or on Xing or on Viadeo or on Monster and other databases. We think that the software should provide you with one dashboard which intelligently translates your queries into the right queries for all of those sources. And as I said, knowledge of the recruitment world and the language of recruitment is in the box. So synonyms, knowing about recency of jobs, length of jobs, um, weights that are necessary to get the right candidate on top. So that's a general survey of our semantic search interface. And now I want to give you a preview of our new release. So currently it's in a beta testing phase. Development has been completed, and we are doing user testing with the version as we have it now. It's not completely perfect yet. Ironing out some last things, and we hope to move it into production and general availability in the next few weeks, early May. What are the most important innovations for our 2.1 release? Oh, and by the way, if you're really interested in participating in our user studies and give us feedback on the new stuff that we made, we'd love to hear from you. There are limited number of places still available in that program. So what are the new features that we think are important for you to use? Well, first one is we've finally added a feature that lots of people were asking for, which is a good auto suggest function. So we already had spelling correction in the previous release, and our auto suggest function allows you to just start typing like in Google, and the search engine completes the search for you if you're looking for something it already knows. And it goes a long way into transforming the full text query box into a real natural language interface. A second point, we did a lot of under the hood improvements on our external searchers, and we added since our last release a number of new CV databases, and most importantly, we added support for working with your searches and your results. So the 2.1 version, and I'll show you in a second, is equipped to allow you to save searches, which was possible already since one of the first versions, but also to have email alerts on those searches, so you don't need to come back with the same search every day, and also to save your results for particular queries or results that you're interested in, um, and not only do this on your own database, but also do this on social networks, and that makes it really interesting for active sourcing. So let's go to a live demo of the new version. So I'm going to switch screens now, and it's always very exciting to live demo a product which is still in beta testing. So bear with me. So this is our 2.1 pre-release version. You see the same combination of a full text box where I can start to type. And when I start to type now, the new auto suggest functionality will actually automatically start to complete my what I type, and I can then select from the list one of the concepts that's known to the search interface. So you see now I've selected actually not the string JavaScript, but I've selected the concept of JavaScript as a computer skill. So it's actually a computer skill parsed out of the documents in our index. So we have here an index, a demo index of some 40,000 profiles in the first tab, which is kind of, let's say, our internal applicant database. And we have configured external searchers, and that's really, you can configure that differently on the types of searches that you like your recruiters to have available. But we have here search of public profiles on LinkedIn, on Xing, which is quite important for Germany, of course, and via Deo for France. And as an example of a paid for CV database, we have included results from Monster. So here, when we're searching for JavaScript, we're at the same time also searching for with the same query in Monster and LinkedIn and Xing and Viadeo. And the improvements that we did to external searchers are really related to the fact that when you have very large queries, so you're looking for lots of synonyms in lots of different languages, not all of these external searchers have the same capabilities of intaking in so many query terms. So we added a algorithm which intelligently tries to reduce your query to the most relevant query on those external sources. So we have autocomplete now on every field that is kind of text input based. So for example, if I start typing in the location field, it will auto suggest locations. I think I have a location table for UK loaded in this environment. So you can directly do a range search on location. If I want to, for example, find a QA engineer, I can just type QA and autocomplete it to the full job title, add synonyms, maybe just in English in this case, and find the candidates in my own database and online on social networks. And when I just type into the overall search box, I not only get auto-completion, but I also get field interpretation. So if I start to type Java, I can choose whether I want to see this as a full text term, as a computer skill, or as part of a job title. So now I'm looking for a Q engineer or Java developer in Manchester. And I immediately get these results. And through the tech clouds, I can then look at what other computer skills they have, and what languages they speak. Oh, it's not showing up any results here. So maybe I'm interested to have somebody who speaks Spanish or French. And I can also zoom in on, for example, on um, the employers where these people work. So I might be really interested to hire somebody from, for example, from KPMG. So I can directly zoom in on that. Okay, so that's the auto suggest feature. It can be updated also with your own in-house terminology and with lists that are being harvested from the index as CVs are added to it.
Jakub, just a quick question in between. I just received a question. Wouldn't it be better to do information extraction on the job ad as is, than for people to serve a query suggestion to make them build a query from scratch?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. Yeah, we actually completely agree. So if you have a job ad, then uh, and you want to use that as a query, that then you should use our match product. And match is a variation on the search engine that I'm showing you right now. And match will actually parse the job advertisement and construct the query for you automatically, and then allow you to continue as we saw now. Um, so it's essentially the same search engine, the same structure data, but a different way of interpreting the query. So with Match, you could just post a job advertisement to the query engine, for example, as it's published online, or you have it in a file on your system. So let's move to the other new functionality in Search 2.1, which is also by definition then available in Match, by the way. It's the functionality to manage your searches and your search alerts. So basically, I can using this button here, if I have an interesting search, I can save it under a particular name and then call it back up. We've reorganized those searches so that they can be put into projects. So you might have actually two very different queries. So here, for example, I'm looking for a chemistry reviewer for Elsevier, and located in Oxford. And I have two very different approaches to finding the right profile. So I have here a complex query that's based on particular companies that I want to recruit for, on the job title publisher and some full text keywords and a location. And the other query for the same position um, has it's just looking for people who are active as a reviewer and have a PhD in chemistry. So I would not necessarily want to formulate one query. I can save two queries and associate them with a certain project. So now that I have formulated these complex queries, for example, here I have a query for the sales manager in Frankfurt for ourselves. and I don't actually have any candidates in my own database, but it seems that on LinkedIn or on Xing, I can get lots of candidates. I'm not getting any results on Xing because probably I have too many requirements, so I must relax my constraints. Um, hmm, uh, well, we'll have to check that. And once I have saved this query, I can go back to it, and I can now also make a mail alert. So I can basically open this query, and I can configure it to have a mail alert, daily, weekly, or monthly. So let's say I want to have a daily update, and I want any new candidates that come into my results to be mailed to me on a daily basis, also when there are no new candidates. So I can save this mail alert, and results will now be sent to me on a daily basis. And the mail with the results will also respect all authorizations and search restrictions that are part of my general environment. So now I can be kept up to date on a daily basis without executing the same complex query again and again. And when I actually when I actually execute that query, and let's say I want to have a larger set of results and find them in all kinds of places. I now have a new feature in the projects that I defined, that I can also save candidates to projects. So basically, I now have the Textkernel Germany Sales Manager as the active project, and I can simply by clicking on this star, I can save candidates to that project. Not only from my own database, but also from external databases. And when I want to go back to these results, I simply click on this button, Saved Results, and I kind of switch to the list view where I have all the results that I previously marked, and I can now contact them. Okay. And here under the project management screen, I can see which results I have for which query. So here I have a couple of queries defined, and now I switch the project, and I can continue to mark candidates, for example, on LinkedIn, which could be interesting for my semantic search development position. And when I come back to the interface later, I will still have markers, kind of bookmarks on these results, without them being actually saved into my applicant tracking system, because they did not apply. I just want to contact them as a recruiter to see whether they are interested in my position and convince them to actually apply.
Jakub, I've got a question whether it's possible to see candidates of different databases in one unified tab instead of the different tabs.
Yeah, that's a very good question. We get this question a lot, actually, and it's from the user's point of view, it's very it's very natural to want to have people in one overview. The basic reason that the results are in different tabs is a very technical reason. It has to do with the ranking. So you're seeing results in a particular order, and that order is determined by the underlying search engine. It's you get a different ranking from LinkedIn, from Monster, from Xing, and from your internal database. And especially from your internal database, you have a lot more structured information because you indexed and parsed semantically all the CVs. So if you would mix results from the different tabs, we would have to solve the ranking problem for information coming from various sources, and maybe from if you would be, to give an extreme example, if you would be searching for on Twitter for people who are talking about a particular keyword, that might be very interesting. But how do you relate them to candidates who are in your own database that you have the full work history for, and the entire CV and motivation letter for? So uh, we're looking at ways in the future to combine these rankings, but at the moment, because we want to be transparent about why we found somebody and why they're relevant in a certain position in the relevance ranking, we choose to display them in different tabs, as well as the saved results, so that you know, hey, these guys are not yet in my internal database. They're actually people I still have to get in touch with. Are there other questions?
Um, there's a question how this information can be integrated into an ATS.
So basically, the semantic search system that I'm showing you right now is meant to be integrated into an ATS. So the first tab that you see here, which now says source box, contains the candidates that are actually present in your ATS. So you will simultaneously be looking at candidates which applied for you for your jobs. And candidates online. And we think that the ATS is actually the system that recruiters in a corporate environment are most likely to be looking for when formulating a job and starting to find candidates. So typically in an ATS, the screen that you see here will be integrated as the core search functionality within the ATS, as is the case, for example, for a system like Connexis. And it can also be bolted onto an existing ATS as an alternative way to search. Okay, so I want to switch back to the presentation. I hope you had a good preview of the new features. So um, uh, to summarize, we have added auto suggest, improved the external search, added additional CV databases such as Monster and more recently Jobbird, and will continue to be adding on request of customers and our own roadmap additional CV databases. We have added integrated functionality to not only save your searches but also configure email search alerts, and to save results under these project folders, which allow you to organize your candidates and also bookmark them when they have not applied yet. They are not in your applicant tracking system yet, and you just want to revisit their social network profiles when you want to contact them. So all in all, this release is really focused on active sourcing, and it will be available in a few weeks, and it will also be made available as an edition of Match. So as one of the participants asked, when you want to use a job advertisement as a query, and it will also be integrated into job feed when you are using our database of online job advertisements and you want to use these as search leads for your recruitment or staffing agency, and you want to immediately look in your own database and online whether you can present a good candidate. So that's it for the 2.1 release preview. I want to wrap up by summarizing the benefits um, of um, of this type of technology and active searching. We think that by allowing unstructured data into the process, unnecessary form filling is going to disappear. Advertise and pray uh, will change partially to target the candidate and communicate with them. Active sourcing will become the essential process of recruitment for hard to fill positions, especially. Um, as a result, the cost per hire is going down because the process is more efficient, and the market is really going to become more transparent. Companies and recruiters will get easy access to market intelligence, and the marketing budget will shift to marketing to the relevant people and increasing your brand awareness and your employer attractiveness to the group that you're actually looking to hire, not the general public. And last but not least, we think it's not necessary to have extremely specialist technical skills on the search part to be a great recruiter. It's much more about assessing people and talking to them and convincing them to take the job.
So Jakub, I've got two questions here that are kind of related. It's actually a question whether the candidate information from the candidates that we just found, are we able to parse that into the ATS? And yeah, the other one was also how can you integrate the information that you found into the ATS for candidates that are not yet existing?
Yeah, so we think technically converting a online profile or a CV from, for example, the Monster CV database to a profile in your own ATS candidate database is the technical answer is CV parsing. So once you are able to parse that information and deliver it in a structured format to the ATS, you're done. They're fully filled in your applicant tracking system. However, we think that basically the applicant tracking capabilities and the active sourcing capabilities are two different types of different types of information repositories. The actively sourced candidates, it's more like a CRM. You're basically collecting leads and you're trying to convert them into applicants. And also because of privacy regulations in various countries, you're not allowed to just import them into your database without their consent. So if you just found somebody who's a great Java developer, you cannot just store their profile in your ATS. So we think the proper way is to really use the search part and the active sourcing part as a CRM that where you maintain your leads as a recruiter. And once you have succeeded to convince somebody, you basically convert that lead and you ask that person to consent and to apply in your ATS through the regular process. And still, then it's important, of course, to provide CV parsing or a apply with LinkedIn or Xing functionality so that they don't get turned off by the administrative aspects of applying.
And to be able to search in these external search tabs, do you need to have like LinkedIn accounts or Monster accounts?
So the question is, do you need to have a paid account to access the LinkedIn database and the Monster database? It's different in the two cases. So the Monster database is a closed CV database for which you need a paid subscription to be able to search and to view. On some other CV databases like Nationale Vacaturebank and Jobbird in the Netherlands, they allow you to search, without a subscription, but to actually view and retrieve the candidates, you need a paid subscription. And for LinkedIn, we're actually searching the public profile, so you don't need a LinkedIn recruiter subscription for that. It's much like going through Google, but without the pain of formulating the complex Google queries.
Okay, I think that's all for the questions right now. Let me just quickly check. I have here, what about Google resumes?
Yeah, Google Plus, I would suppose that the question is about. We're also working to add Google Plus in one of the next releases. We're seeing, especially in the US, a lot of recruiter interest for Google Plus, so it seems like a valuable addition. It is, in fact, one of the larger social networks already. I think it's surpassed LinkedIn in number of users recently. So that's certainly something we will be looking into.
Let's see. This is something regarding match. How do you define and assign weights to certain criteria?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So a lot of that knowledge is already baked in. Um, so we don't think that the average recruiter will have, without a technical background, will have the right expertise to actually choose a weight and say, let's say, the job title needs to have a weight of 7.5 or something like that. It doesn't mean much to the recruiter. It's a very technical setting. So we've chosen to kind of hide it. And we have this selection here in the product, which allows you to put a higher weight. So the middle button of the search conditional between nice to have and must have is boost the weight. And what you want to choose as a weight for job title for that setting is a configuration thing. So during the implementation project, we will talk with a company, how this weight setting influences their process, and what's the right value for that.
Okay, well, I see that that's the questions for now. If you have any other questions, do not hesitate to contact us, for example, via email on marketing@textkernel.nl, or you can contact us directly via the email addresses that you can see in the screen right now.